What's up, everybody? Erg the Pirate here, and today I got to sit down with a community rep for Undying Games who are currently working on Ethereal, which is supposed to come out for alpha in November, and I was lucky enough to sit down with one of these guys and really get to talk about that, to get the information out to y'all. Guys, I'm super hyped about this. So let's get right in. What's going on, my dude? Really good to talk to you.
Hey everybody, my name is Roman and I'm one of the community representatives with Undying Games. Essentially what I do for Undying Games is that I work in the marketing department and I reach out to content creators and we work on a sort of deal and we have them advertise our game for us.
Yes, and that's what I'm here to do. But, alright man, I've looked up some videos, and guys, I'm going to have links in the description. Ethereal or Undying Games, they have an awesome Discord community. I'll definitely put that down. I'm super pumped about this. You know, coming as a Paragon veteran, you know, I loved Paragon, and although Ethereal is not a Paragon 2.0, it is in no way Paragon. It's slightly inspired by it. I am super pumped for this third-person MOBA. So let's get right in. What is Ethereal? Is got to be the first question.
Ethereal is a third-person MOBA, similar to Paragon was, and it's created partly with the community input that Undying Games receives in order to make a game that is truly enjoyable to play.
What platforms are you initially releasing for Ethereal? Is it coming to console right away, or are we just sticking to PC? What's going on with the platforms? Because, you know, of course, Paragon was cross-plat, and I think that's been one of the bigger issues with, you know, me switching to Smite, you know, and not having my full community anymore. Are we getting cross-play? Are we getting, you know, what consoles? What platforms?
So, Ethereal will come out for PC initially. That's what we're working on right now. And once we've established everything, we'll begin the process of transferring everything to include console play as well. At the moment, we're working on getting Ethereal on Steam, and then after that, we'll work on PlayStation and Xbox. Cross-platform will be a thing, except you won't be able to play cross-platform in Ranked.
Do you have a release date of when we might see that?
Yeah, we actually plan to release our pre-alpha of Ethereal somewhere between the end of November to the spring of 2019, depending on how, you know, we take our actions.
Right.
The official alpha will follow very soon after pre-alpha concludes, which will involve more players. We will then introduce an open beta test that will be readily available for people to get into every aspect of the game and fix up any remaining major bugs or issues with the game that testers bring up.
What is the price point going to be for the alpha, pre-alpha, or beta? Do we have different price points, or are we getting free keys if we sign up? Well, what's going on with that?
Our alpha is going to cost at most $20 US currency. Open beta will be free, and pre-alpha will be just exclusive to a couple people. At the moment, right now, the game is in pre-alpha. And in November, the estimated time we give, that's when alpha is supposed to come out.
So, do we know how long alpha is going to last? Is it just kind of testing everything out, or is it just going to last until you're comfortable enough to move it into the next stage of beta?
Pretty much the latter option. We don't have an exact time for this, but we'll stay in alpha or beta as long as needed to avoid releasing later versions with game-breaking bugs or major issues that are brought to our attention by the players.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, I guess the last kind of general question is, what are the requirements to run it smoothly? Because it is Unreal 4, isn't it? So what are the requirements?
Yeah. Well, we don't have any requirements needed right now as we're still optimizing the game, but these will be made known before we release the testing phases. Of course, it's on Unreal Engine 4, so you have to be reasonable with it, but we will have different modes of recommended settings for different, you know, stages of how beefy your computer is.
And with all stages, of course, y'all are going to try to make it run as smooth as possible. So, because I know a lot of the, you know, pro players like to play on the less graphics just so they get optimized, you know, time to move, and just everything runs smoother when you actually run with less graphics, just because your computer's not working as hard. And that's going to still be the case with Ethereal.
Yes, correct.
So one thing I've really seen a lot about Ethereal is verticality. Verticality is huge, and for someone that, you know, a Paragon player, we were very familiar with verticality, and not so much with Smite. You know, you don't really have a whole lot of, you don't shoot up in the air in Smite, things like that. What does verticality mean when it comes to Ethereal?
So having all this verticality means you'll have more ways to play, more ways to attack or defend, also more strategies that'll need to be involved. So when it comes to verticality, our map is going to be three-dimensionally vertical. Like, we're going to have a literal top, mid, and bottom lane, as well as we won't have the usual horizontally stuck at a x-axis flat lane. We plan to have, you know, curves in our lane and an actual terrain.
Right. So
players will be able to fly as well, but that's for later on.
So when you talk about verticality, as in the lanes are not going to be just that flat x-axis type thing, you're going to have dips and jumps, and you know, as well as your map is, you know, it's three completely separate levels. Will there be a whole lot of, you know, vertical characters, you know, flying around where you're, you know, blasting cannons straight up in the air to try to take down your enemies?
Yeah, of course. That just adds on to the skill cap and adds to more strategies.
Awesome. That is exactly what I want to hear. I'm ready for some verticality.
Yeah, dude.
So, will we simply be able to jump and shoot over the heads of minions like we used to in Paragon? You know, that was actually a very big thing, is, you know, for playing that ADC role, or even in mid lane, you would save your mana and just kind of jump over those minions and poke the enemy to really position the minions differently and everything like that. And in Smite, you don't really have that. It's just kind of blast the minion wave, okay, go rotate. So with there being such a verticality, are we going to be able to jump over the heads of minions to get that basic attack poke onto those enemy heroes?
To put it simply, yes, you will be able to jump and shoot over the minions' heads and poke the enemy. Most of the strategies will emerge once players outside of Undying games begin to play test, and we are interested in what people can come up with.
Now, with us being able to jump over the heads of minions, things like that, and there being some characters that can fly, are we going to be able to get into massive sky battles, or, you know, are you going to be taken out of combat, or, you know, drop down to the ground when you're in combat? Or are we going to have in-flight battles, you know, these epic sky fights?
Yes, you will be able to have these big epic sky battles, but I'm unsure if you're hit while you're flying, if you'll fall to the ground, but fall damage will be a thing.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's something new. Awesome. That is really, really cool. So you're going to definitely have to, you know, check your health bar and see, hey, can I afford to take this drop, you know, jumping down a ledge or something? That is a very, very cool. I'm really ready to see that.
Well, actually, with fall damage, it basically happens like this. There's a certain time threshold that if you're hit and you go to, like, make a cheeky move and jump off a cliff, if you were hit in that threshold, you will take damage. But if you were not hit in that threshold, you won't take damage.
Oh, so it's combat related, just
yeah,
kind of like the old run mode used to be, where if you were in combat, you cannot activate that, or, you know, if you're in combat and you decide to jump off a cliff, it's going to kill you. That's very, and I would assume that if you tag me, I jump off of a cliff and die, you get rewarded that kill.
Yes.
Very cool. That's going to make for some very cool gameplay. Well, we'll get into. I've got 10 million questions. But okay, so I've heard that there are a ton of different classes within Ethereal. What are the different classes and what do they do? Because we've traditionally only had 5 real classes, you know, with maybe a few hybrid type heroes. But I've heard 8 classes. Is that real?
Well, at the moment, there are 7 classes that will be released in alpha, and the 8th class will be released later. For now, we have Archmage, which is your typical mage class, high damage capacity and lower health. Then we have the Berserker, which is a bruiser type class with medium to high health and a damage capacity. And their unique thing is that they can destroy parts of the environment with their unique class ability. Cleric, they're a pure support class, and they're meant to aid allies more than deal damage.
Very cool.
Next, we have the Knights, and they're the tankiest of all the classes. They have the highest health capacity, but they can still deal damage, but sustain is definitely their best trait.
Very, very cool. So yeah, there's your front line.
Yes. Next, we have the Marksmen, and they're the range damage carries. They have a high damage capacity, probably equal to the Archmages, but they have lower health like the Archmages as well. Their unique class ability will involve a movement-related ability as well.
Oh, very cool. So this is more of kind of the ADCs from Smite or other MOBAs where your ADC always has some kind of mobility. Where in Paragon, the only ADC with mobility was Twin Blast, and it was more of
Yeah,
an
it was just a
avoidance.
little leap.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct.
So very, very cool.
After that, we have the Reaper, and they're a burst assassin class with high damage capacity, low to medium health. Their unique class ability grants them the ability to climb structures and perform parkour.
Oh wow! So this is your jump out of the woods and just delete somebody type character, and then climb up a cliff and run away.
Yeah, correct.
Very, very cool.
Lastly, we have our Sky Slayers. They're a unique class designed to enhance jungling for the team. Every Sky Slayer has wings, enabling them to fly with their unique class ability. There will be unique objectives tailored to Sky Slayers for optimal performance, but for balance purposes, these objectives will still be relatively accessible by other classes. Capacity for damage is medium. Flight enables movement for roaming and gank potential. Their health is medium.
So it sounds like your Sky Slayer, they've kind of got a few objectives that they can get easily compared to other classes. Other classes are going to struggle, or you've got to make this huge trek through the woods to get to that same little floating orb or whatever. So Sky Slayers are it sounds like they're kind of almost an off jungler. Like they're going to have specific objectives, and then they can come in for a gank, but they're not quite as delete the person like the Reapers are.
Yes, correct.
Well, very cool. So since we talked about all these, several different classes, are there going to be specific features in the map like destruction and things like that that only specific classes can do? I know we talked about with the Sky Slayer, they have these objectives that are easily available to them, which they're available to everybody, it's just much harder. Are there going to be certain things that only this class can do?
There will be specific things to classes, but there might be items to help to accomplish this as well. Player input will, of course, help determine this for balance purposes.
Oh, very cool. So you might be able to throw on a Hercules smash item that allows you to break boulders, even though you're playing an assassin or a Reaper.
Or you may be able to buy an item that, gives you a pair of wings. Wink, wink.
Oh, very, very cool. So, what is Ethereal's currency? Throughout all the MOBAs, we've had several different types of currency. What is Ethereal's currency?
Essence will be the in-game currency, whereas Ether Crystals will be the currency that you can purchase that's used for, the cosmetic shop.
Right. And I would assume in-game currency is pretty much the same thing. You get close to a minion, they die, you get rewarded for that. Last hits give you just a little bit of a bonus, those type things.
Yes.
So with Essence being the in-game currency, for buying items, what type of item shop is Ethereal going to have? Is it a traditional style shop, or is it more like the 3-card system, or just the system in general from Paragon, where you buy an item and upgrade that one specific item and then maybe sell it later on, or is it more like the traditional MOBAs where you buy 3 or 4 different items and then put them together to create one item?
So Ethereal will have a traditional item store in game. However, it'll be made according to our own style. I know last we heard we were going to go similarly to League of Legends in the in the prospect that you can build every item or any item
Right. Okay,
on
very
any
cool.
character.
So you can go full damage tanks or
Yeah.
full damage knights if you want.
Yeah.
Very cool. So next up, I got to talk about in-game buffs. Now, we've got in something like Smite, you've got the Fire Giant or Gold Fury, and in Paragon, we had Fangtooth and Prime. What are the in-game buffs like? Are we going to have permanent buffs like how Fangtooth was, or Baron in League, or are they just going to be hey, these 10 45-second buffs, things like that? What kind of buffs can we see in Ethereal?
Our main endgame buff is called Atropos, which translates to mean fate, which is inspired from the Greek mythology surrounding the three sisters of fate. As of right now, the buffs will be temporary, but they may change in the future, even before alpha.
Oh, right on. So it's still very much being worked on.
Yes, correct.
And what types of buffs are we going to have? Are we going to have, your typical mana cooldown buffs, things like that?
Yeah, there will be like a variety of buffs, like power buffs, mana regen, cooldown, etc.
Oh, awesome. So just kind of standard type MOBA buffs.
Yeah, standard.
Now, since we have, since you mentioned the Greek mythology surrounding, the buffs, we've got to talk about the lore a little bit. How much lore are we going to get within Ethereal? Because, just the few questions you have answered, it seems like there is a lot of kind of mythology and things behind that. Do you have a full lore team behind y'all?
Well, we don't have a full lore team. At the moment, we have Luke and then Song. And both of them work in the lore department. And at the moment, Luke has primarily been doing the work because Song is a new addition to the team. But every character will have its own lore. And, I mean, it varies in length at the moment, such as Zero's lore is, I think, 11 pages long.
Now, the biggest difference between Paragon and other MOBAs, for the most part, was the damage. Now, in Paragon, your damage, every character had basic damage and ability damage. And you don't really see that in other MOBAs. Most, let's just compare it to Smite, since that's really what I've been playing lately. In Smite, a mage does magical damage. A guardian does magical damage. Everybody else does physical damage, and that's just how it is. And you build items, certain items boost only this type of damage. How is Ethereal? Are you going to have 2 different types of damage, and every character has different scaling depending on their abilities, like Paragon? Or is it mainly more like, hey, this person does this type of damage, and this is kind of the scaling that they get?
It's the latter for sure. Like, we'll have 3 different types of damage. We'll have true damage, magical, and physical in the same respect as League.
Now, we've talked a lot about the game. How many game modes are we going to have? Are we going to have different maps? Or is it just, hey, this is the map you get, we'll add some more later? What is happening right now with Ethereal? Are we going to get more modes?
At the moment, our first game mode is Oblivion, and it's gonna be a 6v6, and that's the map we will use for, casual, like the main casual play, ranked play. But we do intend on releasing other game modes. Like, we featured, I think, a 12v12, a 1v1, and I think a 3v3.
So, with the other game modes, are we also going to be getting new maps? Or is this all just going to kind of be featured on this one map?
Yes, each game mode will have its own map.
Well, Roman, that's going to wrap it up for my questions. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank Undying Games for giving me this opportunity to come on, chat with y'all, and find out more about Ethereal. I'm so pumped for it. Looking forward to November, and I'll see y'all in game. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and if y'all did enjoy, show me some love, leave me a comment, think about subscribing, and as always, we'll see y'all in the next video.